So, Doctor, we are live in the recording now. So
thank you, Robert. Thanks a lot. Thank you. So we'll wait.
There are 17 attendees. Yeah.
Yep. We'll wait just a couple of minutes, and then I'll start, Sean. Hello, Rosina.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Muhammad. Hi, we can hear you. Yeah.
Sorry for the delay. I think I've just had some connection issues.
No worries. If you allow me, I'll take a couple of minutes to do introduction and to give some highlights.
Thank you.
Then you will be starting. We are waiting for the attendees to join us, and then we will start. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Good evening, all. I'm seeing it in the chat there. Good evening, Lubna, Hayat, Miss Hayat. Good evening. So I think we are good to go. Good evening, colleagues. Again, it's a pleasure to welcome you all in our third module in the Leadership in Education Strategic and Operational Dimensions, BD certificate. Our topic today will be about data-informed decision-making for school leaders by Dr. Muhammad Barakandi, the Director of Academic Quality and Accreditation Department at Abu Dhabi University. Before starting our session today, let me just highlight some points related to the program itself. So accessibility, it's an important part. So still now we have only around 40 attendees accessing their portal. So today I'll be putting the link again for you to access your the materials and the videos and all information related to the professional development certificate. And also you will be able later to download your certificate of attendance or completion from this portal. As we mentioned at the beginning, the certificate of completion will be provided to the participant who submit the final reflection, which is available now on the portal. So you can download it and work on it and submit it. The submission deadline is 15th of April. Attendance certificate, if the participant choose not to submit the reflection, he will be granted a certificate of attendance only. As I said, our submission deadline will be 15th of April, 2021, 11:59 p.m. at Abu Dhabi, UAE timing. You will be having also, again, the translation services. Mr. Robert from the IT will provide you with the link and how to access the Microsoft Translator. If you want to comment, please, you can use the chat box. Dr. Muhammad Barakandi will be frequently looking at those. If it is technical, our team will be answering it, or Mr. Robert will be supporting you in this. For question and answer, you can put your questions, and again, Dr. Muhammad Barakandi will be answering those questions frequently, or based on the time of the session that we are having. In case you want to speak or talk about specific subject or answer questions that Dr. Muhammad will be asking, you can raise your hand, and then we will allow you to speak. So those are the main points that I like to highlight before starting the module today. As I said, our presenter is Dr. Muhammad Barakandi. Dr. Barakandi is the Director of Academic Quality and Accreditation at Abu Dhabi University, leading all national and international accreditation activities. He has more than 20 years of experience in the teaching, academic administration, counseling, consulting and training. Dr. Barakandi also served as an associate professor of management prior to his current role. Dr. Barakandi headed accreditation at Abu Dhabi University College of Business and led the AACSP and EQUIS accreditation project, which is the major projects at the College of Business, securing both in record time. His other role at Abu Dhabi University has included MHRM program coordinator and research coordinator. Dr. Barakandi, also a professional corporate trainer. Sorry, I'll go down. I know there's like a huge CV.
I think, yeah, I think
so
probably
I'll take the last part, and then I will give you the mic to start your presentation. So Dr. Barakandi is also a professional corporate trainer and management consultant with a significant experience, having conducted more than 200 executive development training program for various business, non-business, educational, and governmental organizations. He has published in various international journals and presented in several national and international conferences. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, Dr. Barakandi. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your nice introduction, Dr. Fatiha. So just want to make sure that the slides are visible.
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So just so before I start, actually, I don't know whether I'm sure all the educational leaders or principals or school administrators, they all start their career as teachers, usually as teachers. And I don't know how you feel when you go to the class without having a strong experience or in-depth knowledge in the topic that you're going to talk about. And that's something similar feeling that I have now, because I'm not an expert in I'm not an expert in school leadership, because I've never worked in a K-12 school. And then my area is business management and primarily leadership and organizational behavior, entrepreneurship. That's my area of expertise. So today I will be talking about leadership in education, where several of you have more experience than me. So consider this as more of a discussion where I wish, I probably I'll learn something from you as well. So we can learn from each other. So 1 second. So before I start, I would like to show you a short video. Is my slides visible?
Yes, Dr. Ahmed, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
So it's just a 4 minutes video, and some of you must have seen this video. So I would request you to watch it carefully. Okay, thank you. So this is a hospital scenario, and we see a lot of people. I think if we put ourselves in that scenario, like an employee at the hospital, we see a lot of people, but we don't know much about who they are, what are they, what are their problems, what are the kind of the issues they have in their mind and their personal issues and so on. So and that knowledge is part of data. And if we know them better, we can deal with them better. Let's go to a classroom now. Let's take that same thing to a classroom. I'm going to a classroom and I have, let's say, 25 students. This is a tool Abu Dhabi University uses. I'm going to a classroom and I have 25 students. As you've seen in the video, where I don't know, I see 25 students, I treat them all the same. Maybe I assume that everybody would respond to me the same way, but they are different. They have different strong areas, different, let's say, areas that need improvement. There are so there are multiple. There could be other issues, the behavioral aspects, and so on. If you go to a class, and if you put yourself as a teacher, that's where we all start as whether you're a school administrator, principal. Most of us started our career from the classroom, and if we go to the classroom, keeping the same video concept in mind, if we go to the classroom and if assuming that we have data related to each student. So this is student 1, and I know that student 1 has issues with, there are strong areas, let's say math, or some other specific areas. He has math and accounting, he is weak maybe. And again, there are performance across year, whether how was this performance in the previous grades and at different points. So, and also some behavioral aspects like the absence rates and, other things. So if you know more about the student, you can deal with the student better. So this is more about understanding the student better so that we can deal with those students better. And that's where we all start with the concept of importance of data. And when we go back to, and again, coming from us, if all our teachers do that job better, I think I myself as a teacher, and that's where the school performance gets better. That's where student performance, get better. So this is the whole, logic behind looking at the data. We do know the grades of the students, but there are things that are, beyond individual grades, and that's where we look at the data. Okay, so that's a starting point. And before we go to the further, the next aspect of it, we talked about, I think, the previous 2 sessions covered school leadership and also the leading change in the education. So, and if you look at the leadership perspective in most of the schools, and if you look at the research internationally, you would see that you don't see a lot of, and that's what research shows, you don't see a lot of leaders in educational sector. Again, when it comes to high school or K-12 schools, we don't see a lot of leaders. And mostly what the research shows is that mostly you see managers and what they call it as transactional leaders, which is equivalent to managers. And I believe you covered some of those aspects in the first session in school leadership. So that's the starting point. And then when we look at, let's say, leading change in education, we are looking at the future. So there is a futuristic approach, which is not usually seen by or thought by a transactional manager or transactional leader. That's where we understand, because if you're talking about your role or our role as school administrators or educational institutional administrators, if we see ourselves as managers or transactional leaders, what we call it as, which is, and then, the data that we need are relatively minimal, because, you just need to manage the processes, manage the usual, the teaching, grading, assessments, and then the usual operations of a school, within the four walls of a school framework. So here, but the difference is, and I'm sure this must have been covered in the previous session, because this is connected to that, because the way, if you see the data, the need for data as a manager, and if you see the need for a data from a leader perspective, wearing the hat of a leader, there is a big difference. And I'll come back to that in a while. So there is a journey from manager to leader, and then from leader to strategic leader. And what makes a leader a strategic leader is, he has, as you can see in highlighted in green, where you have a vision. You have a vision, and it's like you have a mission, and you have the strategic goals, and then you have long-term goals for your institution, and you're taking your goal as a school leader is taking the school from the current level to the next level, and then you have a clearly articulated strategic goals, which are long-term goals, and again converted to short-term goals and medium-term goals, and then you have clearly defined performance indicators for the institution, so that you know how those goals are achieved. And then these institutional goals, institutional objectives, are cascaded down to the unit level, different units, academic units that you have within your school, and again to the individual teachers or academic support systems, or whether they are teachers or academic support staff. So they all have their key performance indicators and the targets or the individual goals. And once they achieve those goals, in the unit goals will be achieved, and then that's how you achieve the institutional goals. So this is where, so going back to the point, when we say manager, is a person who is the managing. Definitely we need managers to, run the schools, but you need to wear the hat of a manager at times. That's what we call it, a situational leadership. And then moving to a leader, where you have this transformation. That's what, when you move from transactional, which is a manager, to a transformational and a visionary leader. And that's where, so if you are seeing yourself as a leader, a visionary leader, by keeping the long-term goals that you have as an institutional leader, and then that's where the need for a comprehensive data collection, covering the holistic aspects of student experience beyond just grades, come into the picture. So that's the starting point, and I believe that has been covered in detail in the previous session. And I don't know whether this has been covered in the previous session, but there is a book called 5 Levels of Leadership. 5 levels of, I think this is a must read for all, from where from positional role, which is mostly the transactional leader, what we call it as a manager position, and to level 5. So so this is where ideally a leader, and this is what they call it as the lowest level of leadership, the position where you have a position as a school administrator, and then people obey you because they have to, and then you move to the next level. You have relationship, you build a relationship with people, you have influence, and then you have results, and that result is where people follow you because what you have done for the organization. That's where the data will speak for you, and then you will. The next level is you develop people, and then you move to the level 5. So that's where again the conversation here is wearing the role of or the hat of a leader, a strategic leader. And again, when we talk about why data and again, why we should collect the data, what data to be collected, and where to collect the data, when to collect, how frequently you collect, and what tools you're going to use to collect the data, who will collect the data, and how you will use the data. And that's where I said, if we don't have this visionary aspect, then data collection will be more of a transactional approach than a visionary approach. So that's where the mission statement to vision statement, the strategy and the goals and objectives, and then to achieve those goals and objectives, you have performance indicators, targets, and performance indicators, which so what we are talking about is the collecting data, not just about individual students or a cohort or about teacher. You're capturing multiple data from different dimensions, and that is all. It's not a random data collection, because you have a clearly defined plan, articulated vision, mission, and strategy, which is the long-term goals, and you're constantly monitoring the data, and what we call it as controlling the data. Controlling the data means this is what you wanted, and the control mechanism, basically, when you look at my hand, this is what we wanted, and which is what's our target, and you're collecting the data, actual data. This could be here, or this could be here, or this could be above what it could be an overachievement. So here, so in this case, for example, when we say if your target is this, let's say 10, and if your performance is at 7 on a performance indicator, maybe student satisfaction, for example, or teacher satisfaction, or improvement of learning experience in the school or campus experience. So here, this gap is maybe a performance gap. That's where you have intervention mechanisms in place, so that you collect the data, you set the target, you collect the data, and then you see whether how far you are close or away from your targets, and that's where the intervention mechanism would happen. So so this is the starting point again, as I said.
Dr. Muhammad, if you can just use the slideshow option, so the full page will be there from the PowerPoint, because some of the attendees saying that it's it's not clear for them. So maybe if you use the show option, slideshow option, to make it full screen.
1 second, sorry.
No worries. It's
is it better?
Yeah, down. Yes, but now it's duplicated. So I think you need to select.
You need to change the display settings, Doctor.
Display setting up, Dr. Muhammad.
Is this better, Dr. Fatiha?
For me, it was clear from the beginning. I don't have an issue, but some of the attendees are saying that they have an issue. So you see, Dr. Muhammad, the display settings, the middle one, up.
It's an upper right, Doctor? Upper left, I mean.
Upper left,
Upper left.
Here?
The
second
display settings, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And select the swap.
This one?
Yes.
Better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Okay, thank you. I'm mostly a Teams person. I use Zoom less. Okay. So we're talking about different aspects of the data, and here again, as I said, what data you need to collect, and it depends on, do we have a vision, do we have a strategic goal, and that's the starting point, and then do we have targets to achieve, and then do we have performance indicators at the institutional level, and do we have those institutional level KPIs of performance indicators and targets distributed to the next level, at the different academic unit level, and non-academic unit level as well. For example, transportation service or campus, sports facilities, and library, and so it covers everything. It's when we talk about data as a school leader, it's not just about the learning experience. It includes the entire campus experience and beyond. We'll come back to that. So this is where it's critical to have clear vision and how your school will be different from the other schools, and what kind of unique experience that you would have for your school, and this is all part of your mission, vision, and strategic goals. And so that's how it's important to. And again, if you don't have a strategy, if you don't have long-term goals, and if you don't have clearly defined performance indicators and targets, then it's like when I want to lose my weight, and I don't measure my weight. I don't know how much weight I should lose, and I don't know how long is my time frame to lose that lose weight. I think actually I always try to lose weight. I never succeed, because I'm more of a foodie person. Okay, so coming back to this point, this is where we have we need to have clarity before we think about the whole framework of data collection. And when we look at the multiple layers of data collection, I'm sure several of you are doing it partly, and some of you are at different levels. So here, looking at what kind of data are we capturing to know whether we are doing good. I think ideally, even if from a leadership perspective, how do you know as a leader you're doing good? If I ask you, how do you know as a school leader you're doing good? What are the indicators? Any thoughts? Conduct feedback surveys. Thank you. Okay, so you can type in the chat box. How do we know that we are, as an institution, let's say again, whether it's a high school or university, we're talking about educational institutions. So here, students progress, and again, performance appraisal, okay, from individual employees. Are you meeting your performance indicators, results? Okay, so when we say response from stakeholders, very, very good. So here, the value addition. So here, if you want to know whether you're doing good, first we need to have a target. We need to have a target. We need to have a goal, and then we need to have some performance indicators, so that you can measure whether you're doing good. So the goal achievement is the first. I think normally in leadership we say that there are multiple things, but three critical things that in leadership there is the goal achievement. How do you know a leader is doing good? A, goal achievement is the team achieving the goal. That's the first thing. And the second thing is member satisfaction. Are people happy? Are people working under him? Are they happy? And the third thing is if there is a crisis or external kind of in a critical situation within the organization, outside the organization, are you able to manage that crisis? I think the corona and current pandemic is an important example here. So am I doing good? Am I doing good? I think so as a leader, and also I don't know whether you heard about I don't know whether this is covered in the previous leadership chapter or the session where there is a what do you call it, there's a theory called theory of lead, LID, in leadership, which says that if you can see my hand, if your leadership is on a 10-point scale, if your leadership skill is on a 10-point scale, 5, if you're rating you as a leader, of course, you may be a great academic, you may be a great teacher, but are you a good leader? So that's what a critical question here. So if your leadership quality, and again, we looked at the managers versus leader versus strategic leader, which is a visionary leader. And if your leadership quality is on a 10-point scale, if that rating is 5, and then the theory of lead says that your school performance would not go beyond 5. You may agree or may disagree, but that's what the theory of lead which says that if your leadership skill is at 5, your leadership performance is at 5, as a leader, your performance is at 5, then it's almost impossible for your organization or your department or your unit to perform better than your leadership skill. So this is an important aspect of, again, going back to the leadership perspective of school administrators. So multiple layers of data collection. So we are looking at institutional, individual student level. Definitely we cover, I think, several of the, I can see the comments here, 360 surveys, employees loyalty, and are teachers and student happy. Okay, so here we're looking at, whether individual student level, are we, educational experience for each student, and there would be, are we able to identify the strong and weak areas of students? Do we capture individual students' performance and individual student performance, and do we have a portfolio for each student so that if a teacher is going to the class, or if an academic support system or a learning support team looking at that individual student's performance, so is there a profile built? And that's what that's where the data is very important. So strong and weak areas, I think if you remember the first slide, which I've shown, if I go to the classroom, I know the learning performance, the strong areas, weak areas, based on his previous, grades performance, previous, exams performance, and so on. So this is captured, and it's when you look at that, it's not when you look at a comprehensive data capture system, it goes beyond the academics, that includes the interest and capabilities, and so that in some cases you will find students who are at risk and students who are low performers. In those cases, you are able to catch them or have a proactive system so that you know that a student had, let's say, a high grades, started with high grades, and you see that the student's performance is going down. And so that would kind of alert the system, or should alert the system, and that's where some sort of intervention will be required. And so that's where student portfolio is very critical. That's one aspect of the data collection. And then at the cohort level, you are also looking at the cohort level, or when you compare your previous cohorts, previous years, are you doing the same? Are you doing better? Are you doing worse? That's one approach from your perspective as a education provider perspective. And then also, we know that I have 3 kids, 2 teens and one in grade 4. So but the kids are different. When you talk about cohorts, things have changed. I think the way different generations respond, and the way different generations, their for example, technical aspects and how well they capture the technical aspects and so on. So this is at the cohort level. You're looking at the data should kind of give us an idea whether our teaching methodologies should change based on based on the different, what kind of progression that you have, and what kind of changes you observe between the cohorts. So again, going back to the first video, if you know them better, if you know I think again, we all talk about the public speaking. The first thing is know your audience, and then you know who you're talking to. So this is from a cohort level, and also from a student level. That's where the matrix and the visual I've shown at the beginning, where you have information around each student, so that a teacher going to the classroom will have a more informed judgment about how he or she should respond and handle and manage the class as a cohort and individual students in the class. So so here again, beyond the cohort level, there are delivery and learning experience. That's where I think some of you have mentioned that is the teaching performance and evaluation, appraisal, and that's where you get feedback from the students, and it's all data giving. And a lot of schools and higher education institutions, they have they capture a lot of data, but on the other side, what do we do with the data? That's an important aspect. And a study, I think I've read multiple studies which show that we collect a lot of data, and most of the schools, most of the education institutions do not properly use the data to make things better. Okay, so that's where the holistic approach concept coming to the picture again, and leadership perspective of looking at this data, keep with the long-term goals of your schools or institution coming with the picture. So then I think people have mentioned that there are external external stakeholders. I think some responses from stakeholder. That's I can see that from the comment section. How many of us, when we talk, it's easy to say that collect data from external sources. What kind of external data do you collect? Any thoughts? What kind of external data you collect? Actually, it's not what kind of external data you should collect. What kind of external data you collect now? I think as part of your current role, do you collect external data? If yes, what external data you collect? Any thoughts? For example, your students are going to the university. We talk about K-12, high school, do you talk to the university and see how our students are doing? And also, do you have any sort of comparative analysis how your graduates are performing better than the other schools, or is it the same? So this is where looking at parents and parents. Okay, you collect data. University requirements, job market, pass rate. Pass rate is, I think it's more of a pass rate. If you're talking about pass rate from the university, then that's an external data. If the pass rate of your school, for example, if the grades they get, and the progression, and and how many of the students get A, this is internal data. So yeah, accreditation team and external grading. So graduation rate from the university, Ministry of Education. So grades, mark comparisons between our school and other schools. Do we do that? That's the question here. And again, and if we do that, after collecting the data, what do we do about it? Of course, again going back to data is useless if you don't properly or it has no value if you don't properly use to make the right decisions. So because we have in Abu Dhabi University, for example, we conducted multiple studies, and we observed that students coming from specific schools, their performance they perform better than the other schools. And again, we also found that some schools, let's say a grade, a grade need to be discounted in terms of if you're considering, which means that a grade school, a rating from a school A and school B, may not lead to the same quality of a student, in the university. So this is where, and again, as schools, what do you do about it? I think, do you go and collect the data? Do you talk to the universities, university administrators, and see, some sort of? And again, it's basically to, what is the purpose? The purpose is to help us improve better. Improve our performance and perform better, and so on. So, are we preparing our students? How well the institution has prepared the students for higher studies and life. So, this is where what we call it as graduate destination survey. And somebody talked about the job market, or the job, the employment rates. But usually, this may be relatively easier for higher education institutions, because the students are going to the job market right after the university. And that's where we may have to, schools may require to have some sort of indirect measures where they have, whether they're prepared students for their higher education life and the jobs. So some sort of, do you collect data from your alumni, and do you anyway capture the data? And again, the comparative analysis, do we do that? And unless we do that, how do we know we are doing better? So this is where, going back to the concept of a visionary leader, and what's the vision? The graduate from my school or my unit, or they should do their best. I think that definitely we all aim for that goal. But do we have a proper? Do we monitor the data? Do we have some sort of benchmarking, as people said, benchmarking against the best in the best schools and comparable schools and so on. So this is where the external sources, and here again, when we talk about assessment, and are we only capturing the grades, and is there anything else that we should capture? Because we know that the grades do not contribute a lot, to get a job, for example. And so that's where you have the graduate attributes like critical thinking, analytical thinking, and communication skills, and building the right attitudes, and all these things are again, the difference between the K-12, the school system, and the higher education, because we have the opportunity to kind of shape them, because the students stay with us longer than, and again, when they are with us when they are young, so that it is, I would say, I think somebody said it's criminal if we don't clearly develop them for the future, and that's the best time. And if they don't have a proper training and learning experience and educational experience and character formation, and developing those core competencies and the life skills in the schools, then they it's relatively difficult for them to learn that later. Of course, definitely people would learn that if there is a pressure, but this is where the schools might put their leadership hat on, and then work, look at the things that they can improve to ensure that so that's where certain performance analytics, it's beyond the students' academic performance, and also students' engagement analytics, and also cover their behavioral aspects, their core competencies, and so on. And again, this is when we talk about what to collect, this is Institutions might use different rubrics. Rubrics are when you start to collect the data, and that's where we will have. I'm not going to the details of it, but I'm sure you all have. And then here again, as I said, most of the data collection surrounds around the grades and learning outcomes, so this is where we have to talk to the university's external stakeholders to know if our graduates are prepared for the future. And when we say and are we actually doing that value addition there? So that's very critical, and also that's where we talk about the open systems, where you have to have those what we call it as talk to the external stakeholders, and then based on the data that you collect, you modify your approach to train them, and again you make modifications. So this is what we call it as closing the loop. So you have targets, and then you measure the data, you collect the data, you have the targets, and you collect the data, and then based on the data that you've collected, if you will modify your approach, the teaching and learning approach, and overall student experience approach. That includes beyond academics. That includes sports. It's all about it's more about well-rounded, holistic development of the students. And which are definitely very critical. For the future, not just to get the job, just to face the difficulties in life as well. So this collection of data from external sources and internal sources on a continuous basis, and making corrective actions, and again collecting data, addressing the issues that you find based on this data collection. So that's where, and some of the examples that we use, again, this could be adopted to your situation, wherever applicable. For example, we had a program in BBA, Bachelor of Business Administration in Marketing. So Abu Dhabi University had a program in Bachelor of Business Administration in Marketing. And as a university who, which constantly looks outside for the industry data and the job market and industry changes, and what are the changes happening in the industry, we talk to our alumni, we talk to our employers, and so based on that, we had a program called BBA Marketing, and then we found that when we looked at the data, we found that the students taking this happened a few years ago. Students in the marketing, students in this program, the total enrollment, the takers of this program, are declining. So and then when you looked at the data, and then we talked to the industry, we talked to the alumni, and we found that the marketing has changed. We've been teaching, I think, until that point. I think this happened somewhere in 2015, or 2014 or 15, and we realized that marketing has changed, and there is no traditional marketing, and now it's digital marketing. So somewhere in 2014 or 15, we, based on the industry data, we and based on the data that we collected from the market, from our graduates, our students, and our employers, and we realized that what we teach at that point of time is not much relevant to what the industry wanted. So then we modified the program and we introduced the digital marketing. So then we had a great improvement in our enrollments, and then and since then this is one of our successful programs in the College of Business. So this is where this is one of the ways of looking at a stakeholder data, external and internal, and then making corrective actions accordingly. And also, I think, so this is more of a reactive approach. You saw the numbers going down, and then you start to look at why this is going down. Like you realize that your student satisfaction is going down. or your employee satisfaction is going down. So, so why employee satisfaction? So this is more of a reactive approach. And then I'll give an example of a proactive approach where, we have a program called Bachelor of Business Administration in Finance, not the finance and fintech, Bachelor of the first part. And then that was one of the successful programs, in Abu Dhabi University, Bachelor of Business Administration in Finance, one of the successful programs. And as part of this this is called a proactive approach. The first case of marketing to digital marketing, that was more of a reactive approach, but Abu Dhabi University improvised its approach to data management. And then, as part of constant monitoring of the data and internal and external data, and analyzing the data and having the right decisions based on the data. Again, this is done at the leadership level of the college, at the same, or at the university level, institutional or unit level. So going back to this BBA Finance example, so we had a program called BBA Finance. It was doing good. When we talked to the market, we realized that finance is moving to fintech. So we introduced, I think we came up with an idea of BBA Finance and fintech before the market rejected. I think it's like before you see the signs of rejecting a product by the market, you introduce a new product. I think this is what I think the same logic of why Apple introduces new phones every year, because after some time you will not use the old phone. So before you throw our product, we throw our product. I think before you abandon our product, we abandon our product and we introduce a new product. So this is what an example of, and again, we have, we had, programs in electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, IT, and now we've improvised those programs. And some of our programs are BSc side. The most recently introduced programs are, you have programs in, cybersecurity, you have programs in artificial intelligence, you have programs in, big data, data analytics. So all these things, all these things are part of metallurgy and so on. So this is what we are talking about is basically you're constantly looking at data, and you would see that external data will give you a lot more valuable information, with regard to how your graduates are performing, how your school is doing in preparing the students for the university and for the workplace. And this is where, because we all, as teachers, we all know, as myself as a teacher, what we want is, our students should get the best learning experience, academic and non-academic. And that's where all our parents, all the parents, as myself as a parent of 3 kids, I want, when I send my kids to the school, I want my students to, my kids to get the best academic and non-academic learning experience that includes their character development and their holistic development, and so on. So this is, are we doing that as an institution? Are we doing that? And this is where we, this is where the collection of external data becomes very important. So I'm conscious of the time, so I'll so this is again going back to a dashboard that university has, where we are looking at students who are at risk by program. We are looking at students who are at risk, and then if we see a student or we are kind of having additional support systems. So we have an academic success center at the university where students who are at risk, which means that their grades are lower than a safe grade, for them to graduate. So we catch them early, we monitor that data, we catch them early, and then we have mechanisms in place. Again, it's not about capturing the data alone. What do you do with that data? So we have a separate unit called Academics Success Center, where there are peer tutors, there are good students performing, the good students acting as tutors, peer tutors, supporting the students who are at risk and having difficulty in some students are doing great in social sciences, but they have difficulty in let's say language, or they have difficulty in with numbers, or and we need, going back to my first video, we need to know what they need. You need to know what their problems are, and that's where it's very critical that we know them. How do we know them? It's only through collection of data, right data, and proper data analysis, and making the right decisions. And that's where and again, there's some generic questions just to refresh what we've talked. Who assesses? Is it individual faculty? Or it could be, it's done in some cases a jury or a group of people. Are you going to use the sample? Are you going to use the complete data or census data? And how frequently you assess or collect the data? And are the tools that you're going to use to collect the data, are they appropriate? And and then for example, if I say my students, all students who are graduating from school X, our approach is our goal is, or one of our one of the primary graduate attributes is, let's say, communication skills, or cultural sensitivity, or personal magnetism, what we call this, the charismatic behavior. So this is so here when I'm assessing students and say, yes, all my students have got, so how rigorous is what level is your target, and how well you assess, and so that will give you a clear picture, a very objective assessment, and we talked about the rubrics, and we talked about and this is how, just to have an idea how this is done at the university level. So let's say we have the program learning outcome for the, let's say, MBA, and then we have individual courses that are mapped. This is the academic level, and as you can see at the last row is indirect assessment. That's where you capture employer feedback, graduate destination surveys, alumni surveys, and so on. So that's where, if you're looking at the learning outcome 6, the last one on the right side, communicate complex business issues effectively. So there are academic assessment, and beyond that, you also collect data from employers and from your alumni and so on. That's where, so it's not just I as a teacher assess the student's performance or communication. So you are also assessing it from. So this is some ideas around those. So I think questions.
Yes, Dr. Mohammed, there's 2 questions on the Q&A. The first question, this could be a debatable point. If the leader rates at 5, institution would not perform more. Any research report available here? Please explain later.
Yeah. Okay. So this is basically John Maxwell. I think that is one of his. He's one of the. I would say, in my opinion, one of the most powerful and most well-respected leadership thinker, and he authored the most sold leadership book, if my understanding is correct, and that's where the 5 levels of leadership. The first slide which I showed, where I talked about, I mentioned the 5 levels of leadership. and he has, this is from his thoughts and his, his research. So probably we, if you'd like to know more about that, you can refer to his studies. It's John Maxwell and the author of 5 Levels of Leadership. And again, based on my information, he has written the books on leadership that is the most sold, around the globe. So this is my information. So that's one. But from again, let's take it from. Okay, keep the research away, and let's come back to a practical situation. So imagine your leader. Let's say you are a school administrator and you have a principal you report to. And imagine that when you talk about leadership, and we looked at different levels of leadership, and the first level is the positional leader. When you talk about positional leader, which is what we call as transactional leader, you obey him, you follow him because you have to follow him. There is no influence, there is no emotional connection. And then the next question is, if you don't, and in simple terms, you're following the principle because you have to. You don't like him, you don't admire him, you don't respect him. Of course, you respect the position, but you don't respect as a leader. So in such cases, how long would you stay on work under that person? That's the first question. Okay, and again, this is from the same studies and the literature around those, John Maxwell. The second thing is, so the observations are that, one, if you don't have a good leadership quality, good people will not stay with you. That's one scenario. Scenario 2, people will obey you because they have to, not because they want to, because they have to. So in that situation, I would, if I have a leader, if I work for a manager and I don't see him as an influential person, and if I don't see him having an emotional connection, and if I don't see that I'm developing myself under him as an employee, then I would not have much respect for him. I would not. And then what would be my contribution? Would I perform extraordinary well, or would I do my minimum? So the theory says that, or research says that if these leaders are not with good leadership qualities, people would not contribute more than what they're required to, which is they would do their minimum. And tell me on earth any organization that have created that have created excellent performance by people contributing their minimum. So an extraordinary organization is an outcome of an extraordinary organization. Any organization, when you call it as extraordinary organization, think about a country leaders. I think UAE is the best example. And when you talk about, if you don't have extraordinary leaders with the vision, with the influence on people, and then people, if you don't have those leadership qualities, people do their minimum. And that's where there are 3 levels of responses. Quickly, I'll just finish with that. So one, commitment. The other one is compliance. The third one is resistance. So if you, and as per the leadership literature, if you're not a leader, if you're not a good leader, you would not get commitment. You only get compliance. Compliance means I obey you because you're my boss. And the commitment is I'm doing it wholeheartedly from my heart. And that's where a good leader, so you get extraordinary performance if you're a leader. So that's the answer. So that's the logic behind the theory of LIT, which says that if your leadership skill is on 5, so your performance as an organization would not go beyond 5. because people with more leadership qualities than you, better leaders than you, will not stay under you. So you will see that people with better leadership qualities, good people, would lead you. That's the there are more research around it, but I think my primary reference would be John Maxwell, and again, the author of 5 Levels of Leadership. I hope I've answered part of your question. Again, it's a debatable question, but that's my answer.
There is a second question: how we can create generation who create job rather than prepare them for job market?
Yeah, this is a wonderful question here. So entrepreneurship is the critical thing. So ideally, most of the educational institutions at the university level, you would see that we prepare students for a job. I think we prepare accountants, we prepare health professionals, we prepare programmers. So most of our educational systems, traditionally, most of our education systems are around preparing people as employees, to work as employees. But that's where how well we from a school perspective, again, do we develop this culture of entrepreneurship and innovation in the work, in the curriculum? For example, in the UAE, how can we embed that? UAE Ministry of Education in the UAE has introduced, I think it's been almost 4 years or 5 years now. Ministry of Education UAE has introduced a course called Entrepreneurship and Innovation that is mandatory. That is mandatory for all the undergrad programs in the UAE. If you're studying any program, you have to take that course, no matter which university. That's number one. Number two, this course is designed by Stanford, and again, ministry has worked with Stanford to develop this course. Three, the ministry has trained all the teachers who are teaching this course, so that a specific approach of entrepreneurship is kind of infused among the students. Let's come back to this. Is from an academic preparation perspective. But what about imagine from a school perspective, can we have an entrepreneurship club where where students come up with their business ideas? I think 2015 or so, we Abu Dhabi University, I was fortunate to be part of the person who led the program called Idea Factor, where we asked high school students to come up with business ideas, and we used to give and I think we conducted we conduct this every year. It's called Idea Factor. They come up with business ideas, and the plan how those business ideas can be pitched and its feasibility is assessed and so on. So from a high school perspective, having an entrepreneurship discussion and entrepreneurship clubs, and having, let's say, inviting people who are successful entrepreneurs. It doesn't have to be big entrepreneurs. It could be small entrepreneurs. Now I think we know that there are a lot of tech-based entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs. So so this has to be infused, while they are young, while they're at the school, the spirit of entrepreneurial aspect, and and that's where schools can have invited talks from young entrepreneurs would be useful, and having entrepreneurship clubs are very and having competitions within the school, and inviting some external people to listen to those projects, and if wherever possible, connecting the students to those external funding agencies, venture capitalists. So these are some of the aspects. But again, it's all about creating that culture within the school. While they are in the school, we are constantly reminding them that you can if you look around you would see successful people if they are mostly entrepreneurs.
Okay. The second question is from Ms. Rosina, saying nature nature and nurture leaders grow with time and develop breadth and depth. Your comment on it, sir?
I didn't get the question clearly.
It's just you want to comment on that, not a question. So she's saying nature and nurture. Leaders grow with time and develop breadth and depth. Just a comment.
Okay, so if I understand the question correctly, nature and nurture, which is like this is coming back to the the basic question, a basic debate in leadership, which is are leaders born or are leaders made? So this is the basic debate point here. So there are I think if you look at the literature and if you look at the practice leadership perspective as well, and again my PhD has been in around leadership and executive leadership and the emotional intelligence and soft skills around leadership. So I've shadowed hundreds of leaders as part of my research. So nature, there are natural qualities. Okay, let's look at this. Let's say there are several features of a good leader. And let's take one aspect. Okay, one is how well you build relationship and the extroversion, the socializing skills and so on. And if you take that, as a leader, the other word for a leader is what we call it as influence, which is like how well you can influence people and an emotional connection and so on. There, your behavioral aspects and your socializing aspects play a big role. So myself, as my nature, I'm an introvert. I think if you look at all my psychometric assessment I've done multiple times since 2000, I think 99, that's the year I graduated, I completed my MBA. So since then, I'm an introvert, but the next thing is as part of my job, and my first job was a salesperson. So as you know, introverts cannot survive as a salesperson. So I have to learn that skill, like I learned the skill of, skill to drive and, swimming. So this is a learned skill. So there is an acquired skill, there is a natural skill. So, and if you look at from a nature and nurture perspective, so imagine that I have, if you see my hand, if I have a 5 on, socializing skills, I think naturally, I have what we call it as magnetism, personal magnetism and personal charisma. Some people have it naturally. And the other, option is, so I have 5 on a 10-point scale, not good. And then I train myself so that I can go to 7 or, but if you have a person who's naturally his personal charisma or socializing skills is at 7, if he puts a lot of effort, he can quickly move to 10. So that's where, but if he doesn't put a lot of effort, he will be at 7, I will be at 7, but my 7 is acquired from 5, but the other person has it naturally. And again, I recommend a book called The Charisma Myth by Olivia. I think this says that, and again, it's one of the best book I've read about the personal magnetism and charisma. It says that charisma is a taught skill. It's definitely, there is a natural part, which is part of your personality and your natural behavior, but it can be taught and sharpened and improvised. Hope that answered that question.
Yes, Dr. Iman Ahmed is asking, the international assessment pass score in the international schools in the UAE are the same for both native speakers and non-native speakers. How can we as leaders solve this issue?
Can you repeat that question, Dr. Fatiha?
Yeah, the question that she's saying that the international assessment pass score, it's same for all speakers, native or non-native speaker. Maybe she's meaning that it's not taking the cultural variation and when they are preparing those international assessment tools. So how we can, as a leader, solve this issue?
If I understand the question correctly, I think there are cultural aspects. I think, however, there are universal benchmarks and so there are global benchmarks, and that's what most of these, what they call it as test benchmarking is done against. So, definitely there are variations, but there are kind of a global benchmarks. that are primarily used by countries, no matter which country they operate. And again, again from a language perspective, we have if you take the example of a language assessment, if you keep an international benchmark, primarily this is for the non-native speakers. That's where and then so the global benchmarking usually considers the natural part of when it comes to language kind of competencies, but when it comes to other competencies where individually or individual cultures or individual students, the differences do not vary much, and that's where more or less they use a standard approach in certain competencies and the requirements. This is my view. Again, I don't fully agree to that approach, but that is the practical approach. Otherwise, there would be a differential approach would lead to a lot of other inconsistencies between different assessments and ratings. This is my view.
This is a nice question from Mr. Ali Hassan. Can the institution's staff with high commitment compensate the lack of the leadership skills on the institution's leader?
Okay, good question. Actually, it is, we always say that, if you are a good set of employees, good employees make the leader look good. Good employees make the leader look good. Okay, so the question here is, do you inherit? If the question here, the two questions here. One, would you have high-performing employees? Always would you have them? That's number one. Would you be able to maintain that? That's going back to the the theory of the LID, where if do you want to work under a person? You are a great employee, and do you want to work under a person who doesn't have a vision, who doesn't have leadership qualities, and who doesn't have any influence on you? So leadership, you can still survive. You can survive if in the short run, yes, but in the long run. So the question here is, if you have great employees and if you're not a good leader, there are two outcomes. One, you will be fired. You will be kicked out of the institution or the organization because, so that's one scenario. Scenario two, good people would leave your organization. So, and again, if you look at people leaving the organization, again, on a 10-point scale, if I use the same rating scale, if people, nines and people with good leadership qualities are leaving, it's like people with 8 and 9. Again, these numbers are just indicative, just a proxy. And our 8 people with leadership qualities, 8, 9, and 10 are leaving. And leadership people, I'm talking about people working under you, because leadership is not one person. Leadership is every individual. I think with what we call it as self-leadership. I don't know, they've read a book called Leader Who Has No Title by Robin Sharma. And one of the must reads, I would say, to understand leadership better. So, it says that, a teacher going to the class is a leader, himself or herself. So are you able to create that leadership? Are you able to create that empowerment? This is where, the leadership quality is very critical. You can survive in the short run, but I don't want to work under somebody who doesn't have any influence on me, who doesn't help me to develop, and I just follow him because I have to. That's where the 5 levels of leadership. The first level is the minimal, which is the positional power. You can survive in the short run, but in the long run, I think it's almost impossible, because your organizational performance might be affected. And again, if there is a crisis, your leadership skills will be tested. You keep everybody together, and if there is a challenging situation, and again, a good leader, and as we always say, if things are going smooth, if you're driving, you're not a great driver, things are all fine, then it doesn't have a problem. But your bad roads will test the good driver, your driving skills. So this is sailor, and if you have turbulent weather, and then are you able to manage? So that's where, and there's a statement in leadership, which is the normal. I think it's by Philip Kotler, or Peter Drucker. I'm not sure either of the one. And it says that naturally, in every organization, there is confusion, there is friction, there is conflicts. And if you don't have proper leadership, that's what naturally would happen. But in some organization, if you have a great culture, within the organization, if you have a strong culture in the organization, it might act as, this is an argument of anti-leadership, the theory or advocates. In some cases, if you have a great system, if you have a great performance management system, if you have an objective assessment of performance, and if you have a strong culture in that organization, no matter who is in the leadership position, it may not matter. But if things go wrong, you need somebody who can lead in front of you, and you can influence, and who can show you the vision and to make everybody on the same page.
There's a question from Dr. Shawqat saying how the natural qualities of leadership can be developed in the future leaders. Are good leaders born or created?
It's a combination of both, but I believe in the second one, and how you develop it. There is again going back to, again, I'm just referring to one of the thinkers, so that way you can read more about it. It's called the theory of process. I go to a gym today, okay, first day. I come back and look at the mirror. Do I see any change? No. I go to the gym again tomorrow, come back and look at the mirror. Do I see any change? No. I go again the third time. So I check after 1 week. Do I see any change? No. So the theory of process says that it is a continuous process. Every time we have to improve. But if I look at the mirror after 2 months, I might see some changes. So the leadership development is a continuous process. Again, leadership development is not rocket science. It's more about being a good person and you cannot fake leadership. You cannot fake leadership. Again, let me just refer, to the leadership, the charisma myth book called Charisma Myth by Olivia. It is, you cannot fake leadership. You cannot fake listening. You cannot, because you have to give your 100%, and again, so this is where, to summarize that answer, it's a combination of both, but it is more about learned behavior, specific behavior that we learn, that would make us better leaders. This is my view.
There is a question then we will listen to Ms. Monia. She raised her hand. But there's a question from Mr. Ayman. To overcome the limitation in leaders' abilities, we can have a multi-layer relation network which enables success reinforcement regardless of the marginal ceiling. What do you think?
I think it's in summary, if you do, there are certain leadership behavior, and we want to be a great leader. Again, leadership is not about whether you have it or not, you don't have it. Leadership is a combination of multiple skills, and each skill is not yes or no. Each skill is on a 10-point scale where you are. when it comes to your attitude, when it comes to the ability to motivate people, the ability to influence people, ability to manage conflicts, and manage other people's perception. There are multiple skills, and in all, it's like a bodybuilding. When I say bodybuilding, I have I think I'm talking from a male perspective, the biceps and triceps and calf muscles and shoulder muscles. So we have to strengthen each of those muscles. That will make me a good a full holistic kind of fit person. And so coming back to the question here, but the challenge is we have goals to become great leaders, but we don't do anything. And the difference between a leadership goal, that development of the leadership qualities, and where you are now, the difference is the discipline. If you don't have a discipline, it's like, if I don't, going back to the example of going to the fitness center, if I don't go to fitness center every day, go to gym or work out every day, I don't see any results. That's what the theory of process. And to summarize, if you do, I think we have heard about this. If you do a particular behavior, if you practice something for 21 days, it becomes a habit. And if you do it for 90 days, it becomes a lifestyle. And if you think these are and watch around people who you think are good leaders, which is things that you are attracted, and some people, some behaviors you get attracted to. Then ask yourself, do I have those behavior? Try to inculcate those behavior, and then it's part of. Once you do it every time, then it's part of you. So that's why it takes time, but if we don't start, we won't get there. Without having a good leadership qualities, I repeat what I've stated, your institution would suffer. Two options: you will have to go out, or you will be kicked out, or people working under you will go out. So this is because we don't want to work under, because it affects the entire organization. And that leadership is not just the school principal. This leadership, when I say leadership, it applies to any unit. If you're a school supervisor, if you're a head teacher, it applies to every role, at the lower level leadership, to the middle level leadership, to the top level leadership. And the last thing is, prove yourself first, then you will have a chance. So if you are an employee, non-managerial employee, non-leadership role, if you prove yourself, you will have the next role. It's not that give me a chance, I'll prove myself. Prove yourself first that you are capable of managing the next role, the higher level role, then you will have a chance. That's how leadership works in practical life. And I'm sure all of you are aware of that.
Miss Monia, she's raised her hand. Yes, Miss Monia, you can unmute yourself and speak, please. Miss Monia?
I think she is unmuted, but I think there's something wrong with the microphone. Miss Monia?
Yeah, yesterday she was fine. Or maybe, as you said, there's an issue with her mic. Yeah. There is a comment from Dr. Shaukat about the behavior. Let me just, I will open the chat. That behavior cannot be learned, but behavior can be modified. Behavior can be learned. If you take the behaviorism theory, they are talking about how we can create and build a new behavior. I know it's not our area to discuss this here, but it just caught my attention. Until waiting for Ms. Monia to solve her issue, there's a question from Dr. Asma. What do you recommend for crisis management in terms of leadership strategies of the 21st century? 21st century.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
What do you recommend for crisis management in terms of leadership strategies of 21st century?
Okay. So you're talking about crisis management, right? Right. That's Maybe I have crisis management, right?
Yes.
Okay. Crisis management. This is an important question here. I think three aspects. Again, based on literature, three aspects to define or to know a leader is effective or not. One, I think we said, member satisfaction, goal achievement, and the third one is how well can you manage in a crisis situation. So crisis situation, ideally, I think there are multiple aspects connected to this. One is the confidence. When you say confidence, people get confidence, and they call it as the theory of efficacy, which says that do I feel that I have the capability? Do I believe that I can do this? And there are multiple scenarios here, or multiple scenario perspective. One, if I've done it before, I have the confidence. Or if I've seen somebody doing it before, have the confidence. Or somebody told me that you can do it because this requires. So there are some sort of mentoring happened or some guidance happened, so I feel that I can do it. But crisis management, there is no shortcut to crisis management. People who have never faced any crisis in their life, it says that it's difficult for them to face a crisis. But if because we can easily say that it's the fearless. It's part of personality as well. I think there is a concept around this openness to experience and moving to from comfort zone to discomfort zone. And there is they call it as comfort zone, discomfort zone. There is a learning zone. There is a panic zone. So some people, for some people, if there is a crisis, it is a learning zone for them. For some other people, it is a panic zone where they would not be able to. So if you move to panic zone, the difference is if I have a specific skill, and if I perform if I try to solve something while I'm in panic zone, mentally panic zone, because I don't have the capability, I feel that I cannot do it, then there are two thinking. One is I can attempt and I can do my best and try to solve it, or I cannot do it. I'm forced to do this. So if I'm pushed to the panic zone, and then my performance would go down drastically. So there is no shortcut to face crisis. However, if the crisis is in the area where you have expertise, then you will have the confidence. That's my answer again, because I myself, as in the role of academic quality and accreditation, I manage multiple crises. But when since I've been in this role for a while, I've managed multiple crises, so that gives me confidence. But on top of that, there is a human personality. I think if you think about what we call it as the emotional stability, some people are emotionally more stable. When there is an issue, they can still have the presence of mind and emotionally stable. Some people, they are not emotionally stable when there is a crisis. So it's partly connected to their experience. It's partly connected to their personality and cognitive process, where how you respond mentally. And coming back to the other, I think I have a question. I think just about the question that Dr. Fatih have mentioned. Behavior cannot be learned, but behavior can be modified. And I completely disagree with that, because behavior, if you think from a psychology perspective, behaviors are actions. Behaviors are actions that are there are attitudes and there are actions, and actions are specific behavior you can learn. That's what my argument. People may agree or disagree with me. Behaviors can be learned, and again, I suggest you to read the book called The Charisma Myth, and it says that charisma is a set of behaviors that you can easily learn, so that it becomes part of you if you continuously do it for 20 days. 21 days, we said that it's a habit, but again, I don't believe in this 20 days, but my target is 90 days. 90 days, if you do it, it's part of your lifestyle. So that the behavior is part of you. It is the tangible expressions of your emotions, and tangible, that includes body language as well. So this is my view on that.
And it's the main pillars in the behaviorism. Like it's one of the greatest theories all over the educational system. Ms. Monia, did you solve the issue of Mark, or still maybe we can go to the other question? Maybe. Yeah.
We can
As
go to
Dr.
the
Fatih has said, it's a
question.
social learning theory. That's social learning theory. It's an important theory in education, which says that behavioral modification.
There's a question from Ms. Shaima about, does leadership have disadvantages?
Sorry?
Does leadership have disadvantages?
Yes, definitely. One, there are two sides of it again. There is they call it as the dark side of the leadership. Leadership will, from an individual perspective, taking leadership roles means more challenges, more work, responsible for other people's, because as a teacher, I can just do my job and go home. But when I become a leader, if I have to manage a group of people, I'm responsible for other people's performance. So there is a stress, more work, but it's rewarding. You can you get the credit for what you do, and if things go wrong, you will be blamed. If things go right, you will be rewarded. That's one aspect. The other aspect is from the organizational side, which is, if a person, leadership is power. And again, people, there is a, what they call it as, power abuse. And there is a dark side of, and even if you read around, the dark side of charisma, which is once you have influence on people, and there is a social, what they call it as personalized, charisma and socialized charisma, where how would you use that power for? Would you use it for your personal benefits, or would you use it for organizational and others' benefits? That's where the difference is. But in my opinion, leadership is always rewarding, and by the way, people cannot survive in an organization I think in the long run, if you don't have leadership. For example, I think some people, they don't have, I think in many organizations, I know that schools have got relatively limited, roles in leadership. However, let's assume that you are a teacher, and if you don't want to be in leadership position, someone else who are working with you, someone else who is working under you will become a leader one day. And if you don't have a problem reporting that person, if you can stay there, that's fine. I think normally leadership, moving to leadership is part of growing. And as somebody said, if you've not learned new skills, not grown, check your pulse, you might be dead. That's what the statement. So sorry for that negative statement, but that's what the leadership. It's in my opinion, growing to leadership position, it's not an option, because there are people coming after us. So we will have to grow inside, or otherwise we will have to move out in the system.
Yeah, I think still Ms. Monia is having an issue, but she typed her question. How far do you think the social, local, again, because the chat is moving, so I have to reopen it again. How far do you think the social, local, cultural affect the attainment of the main characteristics traits to help transactional leaders, manager, to visionary bractulary with regard to the female gender in the Middle East?
Okay, I think, yes, there's a cultural aspect. When you say culture, it doesn't always, it's not always limited to the culture where the culture, of the country where we belong to, or because the religious aspect of the family. So there are multiple dimensions of the culture. But in simple terms, transactional, we can look at it from two aspects. One, culture, does it help people to move from a transactional to a transformation? Because transactional leader, it's more, as I said, that's the level one leadership. So and then move to a visionary leadership. So generally, culture does have an impact on the leadership. Okay, which is, leadership traits are not what we call it as leadership prototypes, where if I belong to a culture, I'm from India, and I belong to a culture, and in my culture, this is how a leader should be. There are, I think, and some other cultures, the situation will be different. And one example is power distance, which is, are you close to the leader, or is there a power distance, which is like, is there a social distance between the leader and yourself? And the visible example is, do you call your manager by name, which is, and if you call him, or you call him with the sir or other respected
title.
Titles. Okay, thank you. Titles. So in that case, that's kind of a power distance, and for example, a leader in India may not be a political leader in India may not be a good leader in the US. It may not fit into that. So there is a cultural aspect which is mostly based on the prototype. What is seen as the qualities of a leader in a culture. Okay, so and in Japan, and it's like there are differences. Okay, coming back to the other part of the question, yes, when it comes to the ladies, I always ask. I teach leadership, in the Master of Strategic Leadership in Abu Dhabi University, and I have, I think, my students are people in middle to senior level management positions. And if I ask them, if I conduct a survey, how many of you would like to work under a female leader? How many of you would like to prefer to work under a female, a manager? And I ask this question in every class. Every cohort. And I get, surprisingly, very few male would like to work under a female manager. Okay. And the interesting thing is, surprisingly, it's not very surprising now for me, because I get this every other semester when I when I teach this course. If you ask the female students who are managers, their preference is not work under a female leader. So there is what they call it as the glass ceiling. I'm not saying that this is something I've not conducted an extensive survey around it. So there is a gender preference. Maybe this is to do with some of the perceptions of mental blocks that we've had. But UAE, from a country perspective, if you look at the ministers, if you look at the leaders, people in critical positions, so this is changing. This is changing. In some cultures, it's changing slow. In some other cultures like UAE, it's changing very fast, where you have, I think 2/3 of the university students are, female students. That's one of the statistics which I've seen some time back. So there is, but from a gender perspective, again, it says that ladies have got natural, and we were talking about natural leaders, because ladies have got some natural characteristics to be a good leader naturally, which is within their. This is what I've read. Again, this is a controversial topic, I know, but I've just shared some of my thoughts, and based on what I've seen from around. I don't know whether that is satisfactory.
There's a question from anonymous. The data analysis and data collection of a school will be evaluated based on formative or summative assessment, and how?
This depends on what you're capturing. It's, as we all know, in education, formative and summative both modes of data collection help, and always, as they always say, a formative will give you information about the process and the progress and how things are summative is the kind of what at the end. Definitely that's valuable, but in my opinion, I think it's a combination of both, where when we say, you can assess a student through an exam, or you can do a satisfaction survey at the end of your class, or end of your course. You can conduct a survey. But when you go to the class, and when you lecture, when you teach them, you get a sense of whether they are happy or whether they are satisfied or not. So this is from their body language. So that's number one. Again, from non-academic aspect as well, you get a lot of insights from formative assessment. So so personally, formative assessment, as an instructor myself, as an administrator myself, I see formative assessment helping me correct myself, modify myself as I progress, as a teacher, as an administrator, and then and definitely summative results would give us more solid data to validate whether the formative assessments were what the assumptions or perception that I've had, or the data that we got from formative assessment. So it's a kind of validation or correction. This is my view on that.
Yeah, there is a question shared twice from Ms. Sifat. We'll allow later. There's Ms. Lovina and Dr. Isma, they raised their hand, but let me ask this question because he asked it twice. Saying, if the members of a team are introvert, pessimistic, but the leader is extrovert or goal-oriented, how do you propose the leader can motivate to encourage them for an ambitious and achievable goal?
Okay, I think this is a difficult question of all the other questions. So basically, the question here is, a person can be introversion is more of a personality aspect. Introversion is more of a personality aspect, because you don't want to make an introvert an extrovert, because that is his natural tendency. What we could do is we could teach them to how to socialize, and if the job role requires being extrovert. For example, if you have an employee who is a programmer, of a data analyst, and his role doesn't have much to do with interacting with others, I don't have a problem him being introvert. But pessimistic and procrastination is a problem for me as a manager, as a leader. This is going to affect me, so from there is always what we say. There are different. I'm sure you must have studied about in the previous session. The speaker would have talked about different styles of leadership. But in my opinion, there is only one style. There is only one style which is practical, which is lead by example. Lead by example. You be the role model for others. And if a person is procrastinating, ideally, in some cases, for example, your employees are procrastinating. What does that mean? Which means that you're asking them to do something and they're not doing it, which is serious. So, and why they are not doing it? Is it because they don't? What we say that the cost behavior. So ideally, why they're not doing it? Is it that they don't have the skill to do it, or is they think that it's not very important? So in my case, what I do is I have timeline. For example, if I have something to finish in 1 month, I have weekly meetings, and I divide that into if I divide that into small units, that's where the KPIs and short-term, quarterly progress monitoring, comes into the picture, and acts as a tool to manage, the performance. So, and it's like, and have an open conversation. Why? I think just have a conversation. In most of the cases, communication is the key. And if you can talk to the person and know why this person is not, not doing, is it because, he doesn't have the skills, or are there other reasons, or he thinks that your way is not the right way. So there could be reasons, but ideally, a leader, a communication can help And this is my experience. People have got common sense. And if you talk to them, at the adult to adult level, have a conversation, and then why this is happening. This is my view on that.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Ms. Lovina, you can unmute, but please make it short because I have a lot of questions there need to ask. If you have a specific question, ask Dr. Muhammad, please.
Thank you, Doctor. Actually, I had very small question, but then since it became late, my question grew. But I just want to get back on what Dr. Mohammed was talking about, the ladies and ladies being managers and the feedback. I just want to make a comment on that, Doctor. Ladies, we lead without the title. We really don't need the title. Wherever we are, we just do the job.
I agree.
Really don't need the title.
We agree.
But can you, Lavina, can you just stay without a title? How long can you stay without a title? That's the next question. Forever?
Who asked me that question? May I know?
This is Mohammed Parakani. That's me.
Oh, Dr. Mohammed. Okay. Actually, I think.
And everybody's getting the title. Everybody among you is getting the title and moving up. If you call that moving up. Again, moving up is, from a philosophical perspective, moving up is relative. But if everybody's
actually, you're
moving
going to get a philosophical answer from me, Doctor.
Go ahead, no problem.
You're going to get a philosophical answer from me because as ladies, I mean, if in a room there are 10 ladies, there are 10 different ladies. You're not looking at one specific type or whatever. You are getting 10 different ladies out there.
I know. I have several ladies in my family.
Yeah, actually. So basically, my answer is going to be, it depends on every person. From personal experience, from my point of view, I'm one of those people who really doesn't need a title. And without the title, I can get things done.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
My question again, sorry to, because I just want to convey my message clearly.
No
what's
problem,
your role?
Doctor.
What's your role in your organization?
I'm the head of department of humanities and social sciences in English.
Okay, so you have a title, and you're saying that you can live without a title. Maybe I suggest you to leave the title and give to someone else.
Actually,
someone else
when I say
who need the title.
It depends. Technically, we are called lead teachers. And I actually prefer to be like a normal teacher only. Our work and everything is like a normal teacher. The only thing in addition is that we have to go ahead and, do all these things about, observing our colleagues and then giving reports, making reports for the department and all this kind of stuff, which we were doing earlier itself under another lead teacher. Job was shared amongst everyone. And even now as a lead teacher, I don't look at myself on top of the pecking order. If I do look at myself on top of the pecking order, then I think things will be very different. And my colleagues might tell it is quite difficult to work under a lady.
Yeah, I think there's a concept called servant leadership, and that's what I personally try to practice, because how high you fly, make sure that your roots are on the ground. So this is the humble leader, and nobody would like to see an arrogant, rude leader. But coming back to the point here, I completely agree with you. And again, that's what exactly Robin Sharma, I think I was referring to, that leader who has no title. That's a wonderful book, to read regarding this. But I agree.
I'll definitely make it a point to read that.
It is not about the position. It's not about the position. It's how you feel. Are you feeling good about yourself? That's the point. But in an organizational hierarchy, when you see that, for example, as a head teacher, you have more, room for coming up with innovative ideas and improvisations into your systems, and helping people to develop and so on. So having a leadership position, if you're a good person, if you're a good leader, it helps a lot of other people. For example, I used to go to a classroom and teach, try to make, have an impact in the, since I teach leadership, I try to influence people so at least they have some sort of improvement in their personal and professional life, some benefits. But when I move to an academic quality and accreditation role, I'm trying to have that impact at the institutional level. That's where I talked about. I look at the program. Is this program relevant to the market? So if you move up further into leadership positions, you can have, and if you have leadership qualities, the impact that would be wider, and the changes that you can create would be. That's where I said leadership is critical for people's growth in terms of coming with their own ideas, and so you will be known for those projects that you've implemented in your division.
I completely agree with you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed.
Thank you, Ms. Lovina.
Thank you. That was nice question. Thank you.
Dr. Asma, you have a question. Please go ahead, unmute yourself, and you need to yeah.
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Fatiha, and I'd like to thank Dr. Parakandi for this insightful talk. Well, I have a comment here, since the title of this webinar series is Future Schools. Well, I think we need to think about how the school should support teachers become leaders rather than being traditional lecturers. For instance, teach mindsets or teach ways on how to become more creative, how to become more passionate for learning, how to release control so that students can access learning resources on their own, with teachers acting as a guide. So I guess this is something that is very important to highlight in our session. Again, thank you, Dr. Parakandi.
I think this is very critical. This is very critical. I think what we this is called the empowerment, where we need to empower our teachers, because they are, of course, the school administrators, school leaders. They they can have these wonderful ideas, but when it comes to having the real impact, teachers are close to the students, and if we empower the teachers, you can see that impact. And if we can create those leadership and the critical thinking and the innovation among the leaders, and you can see that becomes it's a kind of contagious things, so that if you go to the classroom, the students get that that vibes from you. So this is definitely, I think that's where the leader who has no title, again going back to I'm not promoting any books, but this conveys a real a message that every person, and there was an example I've read about this, which is when the author went to an airport, and he went to the washroom, and the guy who's cleaning there, who just greeted him that, "Good morning, welcome to my office, sir." So this is what part of what we call it as people see the big picture. And the same example of somebody went to NASA, and then asked I think this was a president of the US went to NASA a long time ago, and then he asked the janitor, what do you do here? And he said, I help the country to put the people on the moon. So it's like, so people are, this is more about what we call a conceptual skills, people who see the big picture. So if I go to the classroom as a teacher, I should see that these students, it's not teaching the subject content in the syllabus. It's more about how can I help them to perform better in the workplace, to perform better in their life. So I need to see that. If I don't see that, we don't expect those impact of the actual outcome or creating or kind of shaping the next generation and citizens. So this is very, very critical, Asma. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Yeah, I noticed this, Dr. Costa, because we are almost done. We are in the end of the session. There is just a question, maybe it's related to what Dr. Asma has mentioned. Some institutions don't give the chance to the bright leaders to shine. Why do you think this has happened?
Okay. Two reasons. Reason number one, people control information and people control other people to maintain their position. So this is one of the reasons why I don't want anybody to grow so that they will be a threat to me. So this is one reason. Again, this is a very, what I call it as, if you're working under those kind of people, I think you will never grow. So this is because as human beings, are we sure that when we go out and when we drive, are we sure that we would come back? When we go to bed every night, are we sure that we would wake up the next day? It's all about help. The concept is help people achieve. This is something I've learned, in my early days. Help people achieve their dreams so that you will achieve your dreams with them or ahead of them. This is the concept. This is something that we need to keep close to our heart, and which I've been trained long time ago when I first got the leadership position. So that's one. So people, you don't see a lot of good leaders who are interested in your development. You will see a lot of toxic leaders. So coming back to the concept of people control their position, control information, control other people to maintain their position. That's number one. Number two, the other side of the story, I think that I am a shining star, okay? But only I think that I'm a shining star. I think that none of the people in this organization are good. It's only me who is good. So maybe I have some problem. So it could be because, so these are two scenarios. One is a person, we don't see our faults or our, whether we are leadership stuff, that's one scenario, or the other scenario, or it could be a combination of both. But if you have good leadership qualities, ideally, unless you're so unlucky person, because of course there is a luck factor as well. At times, because it's like there should be a position. There are banks merged, the National Bank of Abu Dhabi and First Gulf Bank merged. I was expecting, if I'm an assistant branch manager, I was expecting to become a branch manager, or I was a team leader, I was expecting to become assistant branch manager. But the banking said the National Bank of Abu Dhabi and First Gulf Bank merged to become the first Abu Dhabi bank. So a lot of branches closed, so I lost my position, or I did not. So in some cases, this is pure organizational limitation. But normally, yes, we see a lot of people who are not interested. That's a human nature, that nobody should grow beyond me, or so we control people and information. I hope that helps partly answer the question.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Actually, I will leave the rest of the questions to tomorrow's because majority of them will be covered also in Dr. Joyce's presentation, instructional supervision. Last question only, Dr. Muhammad, about, I'll give an answer on this and then I'll leave it for you. Sir, can you recommend any tool or software of data management that could help leaders to represent their goals and work upon it? For me, I believe that there is a lot of those softwares and data management systems or tools, but the important things is the data itself and how we can use and utilize and benefit from this data and do our reflection and planning and implementation and analysis for these data. Dr. Muhammad, your thoughts?
I think it's you've answered it well. So I'm not a data expert because I'm more of a user, and I think I've showed you some of the technologies that we use. And if you contact the organizers, we can connect you to the people who are mostly dealing with the data. Sorry, the technology part of and so they can suggest multiple options. But I'm not a technology expert, so I'm more of a user. I tell them this is what I want. How can you help me? So they bring the technology. So, but there are technology available, which maybe if you can shoot your question to one of the organizers, so they could get back to you with the people who you can contact for further guidance on this.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad Barakandi. It was really informative and great module and session. I hope our colleagues benefit from that and apply what they get from it. We'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow in our last module with Dr. Joyce in the instructional supervision. Enjoy the rest of the day and see you tomorrow, inshallah. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad, again.
Thank you very much for having me, and this is a great opportunity. And pandemic, we don't meet people, so this is a great opportunity to interact, with similar minds, and especially educators who are going to shape the citizens of tomorrow and the next generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you.